Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Transform Tales podcast, where we explore the power of change in our lives and communities. I'm your host, Brooke Addis, and in each episode, we'll be chatting with inspiring individuals about the transformations they have experienced. Today, I have someone who I think I can now call my friend.
For sure.
Okay, Patrick Schober, and I have an interesting fact about him. He has found a new appreciation for a cardboard box.
That's very true. We have my wife and I, my business partner and I, have a 20-month-old baby, toddler. And recently we've been super into cardboard and cardboard boxes and finding ways to turn those into forts and little houses and ramps. And as the cardboard breaks down over time and as we start to repurpose it, it goes from this huge like refrigerator sized box to something much smaller and smaller and smaller. And right now, the really fun thing is we have a box that has been folded up long ways. So it's like maybe like 6 feet long. And we've stuffed it with those little like modular stuffed soft like cubes.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've stacked them up inside of the box to make a ramp. And so he likes to like run up one side and down the other. And this morning he was like sliding down one side on his belly. So cardboard, it's, reliving my childhood vicariously through my son right now.
I love that. And I can relate. My dad is a contractor. Mm-hmm. So we got some very interesting and very large size boxes when I was a child. And I specifically remember us trying to build a spaceship on the front porch. And as soon as we finished, it rained. There it goes.
I was talking to somebody yesterday about this newfound appreciation for cardboard. And he said his family has a artificial Christmas tree. And he recently learned that inside the box for that tree, the original box, there are like steering wheels and like windows and control panels drawn on that his son did years ago. So
what a good memory. Do you think you're going to keep any of the cardboard, maybe frame a piece for memorabilia?
Maybe some pictures of us using the cardboard.
That's
but
fair.
It will all be recycled probably very soon.
Or when it gets rain. I'm kidding. Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that about yourself.
Yeah.
I would love for you to tell us a little bit about you outside of your cardboard and your being a partner and a father and all those things. So let's start there. My favorite question to ask everyone is looking back on your life, did you ever think that what you're doing right now is what you were going to do as a child?
I don't think I had the vocabulary as a child to explain what it is I do now. And sometimes even now, I don't think I have the vocabulary to explain what I do, depending on who I'm talking to. So today I am the founder of Poetica Marketing. We're a content marketing and events company based out of Pittsburgh. We're up in Mount Washington, which just means we help companies stand out online and in person. So we help companies with their websites and the content that goes on that website and their social media presence. And then we also help coordinate live events like big block parties and summer festivals and conferences and anything where people gather. And when I was a kid, I think the earliest thing I remember was kindergarten graduation. We all said exactly what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I remember I wanted to be a basketball player. Turns out I'm not very athletic. So I think by the time I was like in 6th grade, I knew I wanted to do something in writing or I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be like a family doctor. And by the time I got to high school, I either wanted to do something in writing or in art, maybe in design. And I remember we did a poetry project the end of my sophomore year. And it was my first time reading this guy, E.E. Cummings, who I don't know if you're familiar with him at all, but he played a lot around with free verse and the arrangement of words on the page. And it really was liberating from an artistic perspective because I realized for the first time that you can write without any sort of rules or regulations and you can be free. And that was very enamoring for me as a young writer. And at that point, I was like, all right, I don't know how I'm going to turn writing into a career, but I know for sure that's what I'm going to do. So I went to school for English, ended up doing journalism for the first 3.5 years of my career, and then transitioned to content marketing. And now here we are.
Cool. Well, I guess you kind of, in some part of your childhood, ended up doing what you wanted.
Yeah, I had no idea that I don't even think I really knew what marketing was growing up, but I always say that content marketing is just writing with strategy. So there's just, a little bit more thought that goes into it. There's an intention behind it. And that's what I do. I still get to be a writer by day. It's just, I also deal with clients and, sales and things like that.
The fun parts of
Yeah.
the business. Ooh,
Right.
taxes. So in your business now, what had you done in previous jobs that you think has benefited you as an owner operator?
That's a great question. And I've reached the point in my career where most of my career has actually been working for myself, which is bananas to think that we're getting to be that old. I was in a meeting recently where I was meeting with a potential client, and there were two decision makers in there, and they were both younger than me. And I was like, man, we're really coming along in our careers at this point. But I think my first job was, like I said, it was in B2B journalism. And that was actually a very good framework for the rest of my career because it gave me an understanding of how businesses work in theory without working on a business and failing. So it was more just kind of like reading through Forbes and Harvard Business Review and creating new content and listening to other business owners and other professionals about their insights about how to run a business. And so at the same time I was building my professional skills as a writer, I was also learning about the ins and outs of business. So that ended up being very useful to me when I started my own business.
Because the risk gets a lot higher.
The risk, is much more substantial. And it's also great, as when you work for yourself, you don't always have such a robust network of professionals. And like we still do, and, try to make a point of meeting with them and to exchange ideas. But the beauty of working in an editorial department is you always have, 15 other editors who are constantly giving you advice. And I came up through there with journalists who'd been in their careers for 30, 40 years, who had really, really good insights, really, really great advice, and taught me things that I still pass on to young writers today. So I think that was a very important time in my career and really building a foundation for where I am today.
So I have to ask, do you think it's hard to work with your wife? Regina, I'm sorry.
I think it is a case-by-case basis. Some people say they would never be able to do that. And I come from a little bit of a different background because my parents work together as well.
Oh,
And
cool.
so they own two different businesses for like maybe 30 years. And so growing up, that was just normal. And my oldest brother and his wife co-own one of those businesses now. So they're working together. And my other brother and his wife are opening a music studio together, and they also play music together. And so like they're working together as well. And so I didn't start Poetica with the intention of one day working with Regina, but that's just the opportunity that arose. And so that's the path that we chose together. It definitely presented us with a learning curve early on. I had spent so much time building Poetica and attaching myself to it that there was a very specific way that I wanted the brand to be presented and the way I wanted to talk to clients. And I think there was just like some insecurity in myself when she came in and brought her own personality, that I would just like nitpick things that like really didn't matter. And I think the biggest learning curve was, one, me just getting over myself, and two, her building up confidence enough as a business owner that she felt comfortable talking to clients, doing sales and things like that. So today we run really smoothly. We know each other's strengths. Today, our nanny is sick, and so we had childcare disruption, and we roll with the punches. And some people say like, there's no way I could ever work with my spouse. And I don't know if that's like, if you married the right person, if you can, like, I don't know. Like, maybe not everyone's meant to work together, but we work well together. And I feel like our marriage is better because of it, because we can't not communicate well inside the business. And I think that has helped us communicate better inside of our marriage as well.
Which is fantastic. And I'm very happy to hear that. I've
Thank you.
also met Regina and she's wonderful.
Yeah,
Just saw
thank
her
you.
this week. Do you think in working together, you find it hard to now separate like, hey, this is family time, this is work? Like, does it feel like home doesn't get it to shut off, or did you figure out that balance?
We maybe we're like 90% there.
Okay.
So, you know, I have a bad habit sometimes of during family time of just like checking email, you know, popping in to check social media real quick.
Guilty.
Yeah, right. And if I, you know, she can see the change in me if there's like something that needs to be dealt with, or, you know, there's a small emergency, and then she's like, uh-oh, what happened? And it's like, that's not fair to anybody, you know? So I'm trying to cut back on that. And we also know that we both have the liberty to do this, and we also take advantage of it. But if one of us starts talking about work at like 7 at night, and we can just be like, hey, I can't do this right now. Let's talk about it in the morning. And that's great. We'll just put a pin in it. And sometimes we're both really excited about it, and we'll talk about it, you know, after we put Zayden to bed. But in general, we try to separate the two things. We try to leave Sundays just for family time, and oftentimes Saturdays as well. So it's definitely a skill, and it's something we've gotten a lot better at.
I love that you pointed out that there are moments where it slips through, where you're like, hey, I'm locked in, I'm working right now. But I think it's really nice to hear of a couple that's working together as a couple and a family, and also in their professional career, and it's benefiting you from both sides.
Yeah.
I think that's a really nice sentiment, because you always like the stereotypical joke of like, oh, I could never. I personally don't think I could work with my partner, and he knows this. I'm too high strung and he's too mellow. And I think it would be me going, you are wrong. But we also know that about each other. So I don't think there's going to be a time where I'm like, we should start a business together.
Yeah. And if you did, you know, you play to your strengths, you know?
Right. And I also think it's very cool that your whole family, immediate family, basically has some sort of overlap. My dad has a small business and I help him with that, but no one else, none of his siblings do anything with their partner outside of take care of kids.
And it's wild, but I don't know if I hadn't grown up in that environment, if I would have started Poetica, if I would have been willing to take that risk. So I otherwise would not have had a framework for entrepreneurship, right? And having seen that model of success so many times over, when we had the opportunity to work together, it was like, let's give it a go. And if it works out, great. And if not, you know, we'll go back to the way things were. And it's worked out so far. So that's been great.
Good. Yeah. Can you tell everyone who's listening, since I already know, what Poetica means?
Oh, yeah. So Poetica comes from the phrase Ars Poetica, which is roughly the art of language, or the art of poetry, or the art of everything that goes into language. And when I started it, we were, again, primarily a content marketing agency, which is just a fancy way of saying copywriting with strategy. And so that's really, you know, we use language effectively. And now we've sort of co-opted that to be Poetica as the art of language, but also the art of like storytelling, you know, because we do all of the marketing, but we also do events too. So we're creating stories in real time.
Which is incredible. And I think the name is perfect. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
when people ask you, you're like, yeah, of course that's what we picked. Like,
yeah, I feel like people ask about it, and because they're asking about it, they're thinking about it. And if they're thinking about it, they're remembering it. So hopefully it's a memorable name as well.
Were there any names that came up and almost made the cut?
Like literally hundreds.
Old logos. Yeah.
I wanted, when I started Poetica, I wanted a name that was like literally something to do with like fire or speed. And I had like a list of dozens and dozens of names that I thought would work. And every single one that I checked was already taken. And literally I was like, man, I have to like go back to like antiquity. Like I need to like figure out some sort of like cool Greek or Roman word or whatever. And so I opened up my, my Greek and Roman dictionary from like college, like the one I used to like pull out when I was like reading like Ezra Pound and like T.S. Eliot, just for like understanding the references. And I came across this word Ars Poetica, this phrase Ars Poetica, that I hadn't heard since college. And I was like, that's the one. That's
You knew.
awesome. Yeah. So that's what it became. And double checked to make sure no one was using it. Thank God no one had. And that's what we've been ever since.
Definitely hard in this day and age, especially to have something that is unique and stands out like that, but it also connects your whole story together. So I appreciate that. But I know we're living in a world where things are changing really quickly. Technology is impacting all things. And I know that plays a part in your job. Do you think it's been a catalyst or a constraint within Poetic as a business?
It is constantly a double-edged sword.
Okay.
So when I remember like ChatGPT went mainstream, like what at this point, like maybe a year and a half ago. And when I remember like someone was like, Pat, you got to like look at this. Like, I think this is going to ruin your entire business. And I like opened it up and I used it and I was just heartbroken, absolutely heartbroken, because I was like, this is it. Like, we're done. We're going to be ruined. And
did you jump on Indeed and start?
I worried about it all week. And by Friday of that week, I realized that AI is another tool out of many tools that business owners, marketing agencies, whoever can use to fulfill some sort of objective. And at the end of the day, as an agency, our greatest strength lies in the strategy that we bring to the table. And what I often see is, we've lost out on a couple of sales because of AI, where, somebody's come to us and they said, hey, we're thinking about doing X, Y, Z. How would you price that out? And, they'll say, well, I can do it cheaper myself. Right. And then they go and they use AI, but they don't always have the context for what makes a successful campaign. So they're creating content that's like pretty good, but it just doesn't have the connective tissue or the context to really resonate. So I see like a lot of companies, for example, that are trying to run their own SEO campaigns, search engine optimization campaigns, based off of using like ChatGPT alone. But the content that it spits out often is good from a writing perspective, but it just isn't created in the way that's going to stand out in Google. So I see like a lot of companies that have like this huge volume of content, and sometimes it's not even indexed because it hasn't been submitted properly, and it's just not getting discovered. And so while it is an immediate threat to us as a business, there is just so much technology out there, and there's so much that needs to be understood, that there are still great opportunities for us as consultants and as an agency, because our strength comes from understanding these tools. And if you don't understand how to use them, then you need to hire out. And so that's where we come in.
Well, I love that. And I love that you weren't like, AI will be the end of us. I know those opinions exist, but I personally think a lot of things that can be automated that will displace some people as far as jobs go. But I think the people who embrace that it can make the stuff they maybe don't like doing, like, I don't remember we used to open Word to spell check an email.
Oh my God, yeah.
I don't think I've used Word in like a year. Granted, I have a MacBook, so that
Do you
probably
use
helps.
Grammarly?
Sometimes.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, Claude, I'm like, hey, spell check. Hey, check the punctuation. You have to tell it exactly what to do, but just like it's so fast and efficient and easy.
Yeah.
Do you run into any issues when you're talking to clients about the way you utilize technology, or they can better to make the campaigns you're helping with more successful?
Do I run into issues with like their discomfort level?
Yeah. Like, are they like, I don't want this to look automated? Because I know we actually had this discussion on LinkedIn. You posted about a really cool marketing campaign that happened, and there was a bit of a mishap in it. But it ended up being really good for them because they were like, hey, human error.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think what clients care about at the end of the day is results. Do I have more money at the end of the day than I did at the beginning of the day? And if I do have more money at the end of the day, great. We made progress today. And so oftentimes they don't really care how something gets done, as long as it gets done on deadline, in budget, period. When it comes to AI, I do leverage it as a tool as necessary, and often use it as like a starting point for research. As you probably know, there have been some very high profile cases where it hasn't always been accurate. So you do have to be careful, but it is like kind of like, okay, I just need a starting point and then I can rewrite that, or I just need help on this one little section. And then you can kind of use it as like a junior writer or like a little intern and just like churn something out for you. And I think as long as your quality doesn't drop, and as long as, well, that's the other thing too in marketing, we want to make sure that we represent brands appropriately and consistently, and we're staying true to those brand values. And as long as we can kind of stick within that framework, they don't really care how it's being created. I think you and I and other people in our generation are maybe going to be maybe the final artisans. You know, we're in this like, as we've been in our entire lives, we have one foot in like, I read books on paper and one foot in like, I read books on a screen, right?
Yep.
And we're going to be like that in our professional careers as well. We do things the old way with like a ruler and I don't know, a pencil, and we sketch things out, but also like we ask AI to help us draw an asset, you know? So
yeah,
we're in a weird transition period right now.
do you think that human designed or human created products are going to have higher value now in your line of work, especially if it can be, I guess, almost validated to say like, hey, a real person made this, or this campaign was powered by human beings?
I think it really comes down to not so much who or what created something, but how does that thing resonate with an audience. So like, for example, in Pittsburgh, we have a lot of like really phenomenal headshot photographers, but a lot of them have their own very signature style. And,
Totally agree.
and I know, like just scrolling through LinkedIn, I can tell who somebody got their headshot from just based off of the lighting, really, and like what the background looks like. I can tell right away, this is so and so, this is so and so. I don't even need to check. And I think with AI, you know, there are giveaways when something is created with AI. I see like a lot of photos in Adobe stock where the skin tone is just like a little bit off, or the lighting is just a little bit weird. And it's so close to being photorealistic, but it's still in that like uncanny valley. Or like right now, one of our favorite things to do when we're just like hanging out is using Alexa to do the AI generated whatever on the Fire Stick. And so we'll like, right now, like one of the photos we were laughing at this morning was a dinosaur riding a rocket in outer space. And like, he has way too many teeth and his finger or his hands have too many fingers. Right. And it's just like, there are these calling cards of AI making mistakes. And eventually we're going to reach a point where there are no mistakes. Right.
We're teaching it.
Right. So we're working hard. And at a certain point, I think there's going to be little to no difference between what the human can create and what AI can create. And I think at that point, it comes back to that same question of who do I want my headshot from? Which style do I like more? And humans are always going to be able to provide a certain style of customer service and of customization and ideation that you could probably get through AI. You know, there are very good chatbots that can provide answers to your questions. But at the end of the day, we're people and we crave human interaction. And I think there's always going to be a little bit of a premium to have conversations like this or work directly with fellow human beings.
I agree. I think that there's obviously a lot of things changing. But the feeling that you get like invoked from like another human and like the interaction, I think for me personally is going to be a little more weighted when I'm making decisions about things.
Yeah. And it's like kind of sad that we would ever even have to think about like, am I going to be able to talk to a person, you know, and, you know, maybe we will end up paying more for human interaction, but I think there's always going to be value. And also I think it goes back to that strategy question. You need somebody who understands the matrix and can help pull all of your assets together and build a strategy or a campaign that actually drives results, because an image or a graphic or a video, it's really only one part of a larger puzzle.
Wow, I have a lot of things to think about when we get done with this. Do you ever have those moments? I think the timeline, our generation has lived a lot of life in a short time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like somewhere in maybe like 2017 for me, I was like, man, I could use a break. And then very not so ironically in 2020, we did all get a break, whether we
Yeah.
wanted it or not.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe closer to 2022, we were all like, okay, let's get back to it. Like, I'm okay with being busy.
Yeah.
And I think it's wild that AI is now changing things so rapidly, because we were all sitting at home in 2020 like, this conversation was being had on a much smaller scale, but the rate and pace and incredible, but also terrifying. It feels
Yeah.
like the Jetsons is happening in real life, even though I still want flying cars.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Just, it's not even 10 years. Where are we going to be in the next, now it's where we're going to be in 6 months, not where are we going to be in 5 years.
Right. Yeah. And it is changing very, very rapidly. And like being in marketing, we're constantly getting hit up by like new tools and new assets and things like that. And yesterday somebody was showing me a program that basically will build out like all of your content for your clients, like very dynamically. And there are new tools that are coming out all the time. And it is here to disrupt a lot of different things for sure.
I feel like marketing's been shaken up before.
Yes.
There was a time where a billboard was more impactful than an internet ad.
Yes.
But from my perspective, obviously outside of your day-to-day, I feel like marketing isn't going to go anywhere. Change, yes. I think some of the annoying tasks, like a little bit of the research, like you use it for, will probably time saved. But I don't think maybe smaller companies just to save money, but I don't think any big, like, I don't think Apple's going to not have a marketing team.
Right.
I don't think hospitals are going to go back to just using billboards. I mean, we live in Pittsburgh. They do that, but I don't think it's going to be the only thing that happens. Is there anything about all the technological advancements that you're seeing that you think is really going to hinder marketing, like in the next few years? Like, hey, you're probably never going to see a billboard again. Something like, do you know what I mean? Significant?
Yeah. I don't think, I think the technology is only going to empower us to create better marketing campaigns. I don't think it's going to hinder as much as it is going to empower. And I think the empowerment really comes from our ability to personalize advertising and marketing campaigns better than ever before. There's a lot of like really spooky Orwellian technology out there. Like we have
deep fakes.
Yeah. Well, there's that, but there's also like we have technology now where we can track devices that pass a billboard, and then we can show ads on those devices after those individuals get home. And then we can show ads to other family members inside that home as well. And so our reach and our sophistication is much greater than ever before. And so we have this ability to be hyper targeted in who we want to reach and understanding the consumer and showing them content that is most likely to resonate with them. That's only valuable if you can access and understand those tools. And we also live in a world where the consumer is better educated than ever before. They have, if they want it, they can figure out what their problem is very quickly and very quickly identify 1, 2, 3 potential vendors that can help solve their problem even further. And the question really becomes, how do I become part of that decision-making process, right? How do I create content that puts me in the forefront of that conversation? How do I build trust as quickly as possible? And how do I customize that user experience? And a lot of that goes back to AI. People are using AI to be more personalized than ever before. I think we're in a spot where within a few years, maybe websites are completely personalized, where maybe you open up a homepage and it says like, "Hey, how you doing, Brooke? How you doing, Pat?" So there are a lot of opportunities to really resonate with the consumer. And marketing at this point is just all about understanding where we are as a culture and where we are as a people, and understanding who it is that we're targeting. And that's never changed in the last 100 years, that marketing has been like a real profession, and it's not going to change. We're still, well, unless we start targeting AI and AI becomes our purchasers and start making our purchasing decisions, then we have another thing to worry about altogether. And we have different algorithms that we have to worry about and cater to. But at the end of the day, we have a target audience, and we're trying to become the best fit possible for them. And so our end goal and our overall strategy stay the same. It's just our tools are changing it faster than ever before.
I love that you're embracing it. This is very insightful. Do I start my marketing career now, or should I wait till it's at the
Yeah, right.
I'm big on self-branding, but maybe I should. Yeah. But that brings me to the next thing I want to talk to you about, and it's success. I feel like entrepreneurs, individuals who have their own dreams, desires, and goals, such as yourself, and now Regina's with you as well, doing that professionally. Do you think success has changed since you were like, hey, back in college, going, oh, I'll be successful when I get to this point?
Yeah.
Like, is there a point now, or is it if I maintain that? Do you know what I mean? What is success now?
As a company, we have like financial goals and like revenues. And like right now we're talking about bringing on our first designer, and we have all of these goals and stuff. So it's like very exciting. When I was younger, it was about like, it was more financially driven. But working for myself has taught me like, you can have like the best month ever on paper, and you can be like stressed out of your mind, and you can be so unhappy. And for me, success is just, are you happy at the end of the day? And there's, especially when you work for yourself, there's always going to be worries about finances, about clients, about a bill. Did that client pay yet? There's so much to worry about. And I think success to me is really, how well are you handling those stressors, and are you happy at the end of the day? Can you go home and be a good spouse? Can you be a good parent? Can you be a good friend? And I think that if you're happy, you've got it. Like, nothing else really matters. We're all going to be dead in 60 years. So
we'd all like to have a Lamborghini, but it's not necessary.
Right. And I'm not really driven by possessions. I'm more concerned about, did I make the world a little bit better today? And in marketing, that's tough. There are a lot of ways that you can do marketing in a way that's aggravating, but I think for the most part, we've been around 7 years at this point. A lot of our clients are with us for, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
A lot of our clients are with us for 2+ years, and they seem pretty happy, and I think, they're happy, I'm happy. So I think that to me is success.
I love that. Do you think Poetica, as the brand it started out as, obviously changes have happened internally. Do you think all those iterations of what it was to what it is now have also helped that success?
Oh, for sure. I started Poetica in the same way that a lot of people do start their own business, which is haphazardly. And
here's what we're doing.
Yeah. There's a lot of like putting the cart before the horse and not really establishing a brand. And the first logo we ever had was like, I think Regina I think she did it in like Photoshop, but we had a friend who was going to do it, and she like never showed up to do it. And so everything was just kind of like homegrown and homemade and stuff. And it wasn't nearly professional, but it took a long time to really identify our values as a company. And that was something that kind of had to figure out over time. But I think those have been very important to me professionally, but also to the company in helping us figure out how we differentiate ourselves in the market. There are fantastic marketing agencies in Pittsburgh, people who are much, much smarter than me, much more sophisticated than I am. And they're right here, they're here in Pittsburgh, and they're changing the world. And that's awesome. We just offer a different flavor. So we have 4 really core values, and we have the luxury of being able to live them because we are the decision makers, right? And I've gone way off topic and I forget your original question, but I remember now, those values I think have helped us make just like better decisions and has helped us identify like, hey, this client doesn't really, this potential client doesn't really fit into what we're trying to do. They're not going to be a good fit. Let's not pitch to them. And
What a privilege.
Yeah, right. Well, that also comes from, you mess that up enough times, you go through that pain where you're not happy, and it's like, okay, we might earn a few extra $1,000 a month or whatever by signing them, but they're going to be a pain in the butt. So let's skip that and move on to something else.
Do something that's fulfilling for both of us and makes us both happy.
Right.
If looking back, either to talk to yourself or someone who's in a position today where they're like, hey, you know what? This is what I like. This is what I care about. I went to school for English. Maybe I want to start my own marketing venture.
Yeah.
What would you tell them if they're listening right now?
Oh, man. Educate yourself as much as you can and find a mentor or mentors who will help show you the ropes. Especially if you're working for yourself, you are 100% responsible for your own professional development. And if you're not developing, you're going to fall behind because your competition is constantly developing. There's always going to be somebody out there who's faster, smarter, more sophisticated than you are. They have more money to throw at problems, and you are in charge of your own success. And I think the best ways of managing that is make sure you're on top of the latest trends, make sure you know what's going on within the industry, and find somebody or somebodies who have your back, who can help you get to the next level. I've been very fortunate in my career. Like I said, at my first 3.5 years in journalism, I had a bunch of people who understood business, who understood journalism, they understood writing, helped me advance very, very quickly. And when I started Poetica, I partnered with another agency owner who was maybe 5-10 years my senior. He had been down the same path, and he taught me so much about business and managing clients and sales and strategy that, I was able to progress in my career much faster than if I'd been doing it all by myself. So I think education and networking are so important to moving as quickly as possible.
I love that you brought up networking because I was getting there. Networking, I feel like, is so impactful. And as someone who works in a vertical where self-branding, building a brand for someone else, or the strategy you put into building a specific campaign, how do you think networking post-COVID is impactful to people, whether they're running their own business, they are starting in a new career? You know what I'm getting at here?
Yeah. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like there is a different level of earnesty and honesty in networking post-COVID. We were all so emotionally starved. And, depending on where you were and, what the regulations were and whether or not you were furloughed or could go back to work, we're talking about like months at a time. We were just like cooped up, locked up. Just gone stir crazy. And I think when I go out now, I don't know if you feel this way, but I just feel like the emotional level and involvement is different. And I think that's, for me, that seems to have made people more open to meeting and talking. And we all as society went through this like collective trauma. And so we have this like weird sort of connection, even if we've never met before. And so I think post-COVID, it's more important than ever, though, to be out there, to be in front of people, to get to understand each other. Because again, I guess, especially with AI, we're all inundated with offers and just garbage. And networking is one of the easiest ways to stand out and build relationships. And there's a lot of research on the close rate of a referral. and the success rate of that and the retention of I think a referral from a trusted individual like closes like 30% higher and they're like 60% more likely to renew. Don't quote me on that. Somebody was just talking about them yesterday. So yeah, networking is so valuable for 100 different reasons, especially like to your point, to your personal brand. Like you're doing a kick-ass job on this podcast, and that's helping you stand out to a much wider audience, and an audience that you might not have ever tapped into previously. And like I've had like a couple podcasts before, and I've noticed that like having been a podcast host, the way strangers within the community approach me changed after like it got a little bit of traction, because in their minds and in their hearts, they understood me on some level. Mm-hmm. I wasn't so much a stranger to them because they'd already listened to hours of me, just, talk
thoughtfully discussing important ideas
and having really great ideas and opinions and perspectives. And it's just interesting. So I think, personal branding and networking are so valuable.
I agree with you. I think that you can very quickly tell when you're in a room of people now at a networking event who is there because they're the intern and their boss said, we pay for this membership, you better go, and who genuinely wants to be there, connect with other people. And I think the capacity for people who before probably were like, I'll just stay home, has changed. I think there's a lot of people who still want to be home, and that's fine. But I think they're willing to go out and see a person or a group of people in person, because for a long time it wasn't an option, and we don't like when something is taken away from us.
Yeah.
We do not like it at all. I do think one thing about networking that I don't like that has changed is I feel like maybe, I don't want to speak for all cities, but Pittsburgh as a community is not great at the collaborative effort it is to say like, let's not all do something on April 1st. And I sometimes feel bad. There's a lot of people I want to support and I miss out on things because you have to, the double-edged sword of what's more important to me right this second. So I wish that would change. Probably some of that selfishness, because some of those events are actually for making money, but that's neither here nor there. Do you have any groups that you really like right now, or?
Well, I am a BNI member, and a lot of people poo-poo BNI for just the demands of it and the pricing. But it's been great for our business.
But it has an actual goal to develop business for you, so you're getting out of it what you should.
Right. Yeah. So that's been beneficial for us, and we've been members for years.
Great.
And there's always stuff popping up. So like Scott's doing a great job with Become.
Shout out to Scott.
Yeah. And Become's been really cool. I don't know if we're going to become full members, but we'll probably keep hitting it up for a while. I think Regina and I tend to be kind of picky about where we go. And what we found a lot of times is like, there are some, I won't like point fingers anywhere, but there are some like really big annual networking events that just for us like haven't been great, because a lot of times people who show up are like salespeople and they're not the decision makers that like we need to be in front of. So sometimes those events are a little bit more challenging. So we have to be a little bit pickier as small business owners ourselves about getting into rooms where there are actual decision makers who, are either the business owner or the marketing director, or just the people that we need to be in contact with. So, I mean, really, BNI has been great. Become looks like it's going to be really great.
I also hate some of the large groups. If I can't hear the person I'm sitting or standing this close to, as you and I are, 2 feet, I don't want to be there.
Yeah. I've
turned around and walked right back out the door of events that I've paid like $50 or $60 to show up to, because it's not worth the headache. And I agree with you. I'm someone who works in sales, so sorry, everyone. I don't like being pitched to.
Yes.
You can tell me what you do and what impact you have without saying, so listen, for $5.99 a month, we can X, Y, and Z. Okay. They don't even do that at a car dealership anymore. Let's get out of here. I've had this happen to me actually earlier this week. Have you ever had someone that you've had to peel away from in those situations?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
What's your horror story?
I think one of the things that and I feel
they're going to know who it is.
no,
I'm
they're not
kidding,
gonna
I'm
know.
kidding.
I just like hate to poo-poo an entire industry. But one thing I've noticed is that financial advisors, people like in like that semi-independent contractor, like
Commission-based.
commission, yeah, like especially like life insurance and stuff, they're like super hard up when they're first starting like their book of business. And one time an advisor invited me out for coffee, and it was just supposed to be like a very chummy sort of get to know you kind of thing.
Like when I invited you for coffee.
Yeah. Except you didn't go into like 6 decks of pitches. And
Pulls up podium, turns on the PowerPoint.
Yeah. So he kind of just like went into a spiel and then was like, how can I help you? Here's what I have. And I remember being like, he was like halfway through that sentence, and I was like, oh man, I came to like the wrong coffee. But
did he pay at least?
He paid, yeah. But so like recently, I found a gentleman online through Alignable, which is like a LinkedIn alternative. And he's doing like some really, really cool stuff on, well, I won't say what he does because it's like hyper specific, but he's doing like a very cool thing in a very niche market. And I just reached out and I was like, hey, this is like really important. Here's like my personal experience with it. Like, I think the work that you're doing is great. It's needed. Kudos to you. Let's stay in touch. And he reached out and we had a little bit of a back and forth. And then one day he sent a message that was like, hey, I want to jump onto a call for 15 minutes and talk about ways that we can collaborate. And the way he had phrased it wasn't quite like that. If I read it to you verbatim, there was just like a hint of like, I'm going to pitch you. And so I called him on it and I was like, hey, I appreciate you reaching out. I would love to hang out for a few minutes, but I just need to ask, like, I've been burned on this before. Is this a pitch? Is this going to be a pitch? And he was honest. He was like, yeah, this was going to be a pitch. And I was like, I'm not super interested in that, but I appreciate you reaching out and let's see if we can continue this relationship. So, you get burned once and you start to learn the warning signs, and then you can pick up on them and you can prevent that from happening in the past. But I haven't like had a super bad cornering experience that I've had to like pull myself away from. One of the things that I think you mentioned was just like, there's a certain physicality to events like that where you like walk out and like your throat hurts from shouting. You didn't even realize that you were shouting. I walked out of one. Yes, I walked out of one recently, and like it was so quiet outside and it had been so loud inside. I felt like the pressure had changed. Like I was just like in a different world because it was quiet. And just inside there, like, my ears were ringing. It was like being at a concert.
When we're not recording a podcast, let me know what that is. I will avoid it like the plague.
Yeah.
I will not be there next year.
I'm sure you've been there before.
Oh no. Maybe it's one of those ones I'm avoiding this first quarter. Who knows? Yeah. It's so funny. Networking is really important. I also think it is a big part of marketing. When you guys are working with specific companies or people, I'm sure you work with small business, large, all sizes. Does any of your strategy go into like the personal branding and how that affects like the business?
Oh, lovely question. So
thank you.
One of the things we identified early on, so talked about my own shortcomings as a founder and like kind of putting the cart before the horse. A lot of people in Pittsburgh start a business because they're really good at a very specific thing. They might
pickles.
they might be good at making pickles.
Yeah.
They might be good at making candles. Right? They have this one really, really thing that they're really good at, and they say, I'm going to start a business around that. But they don't have sales experience. And one thing that we've learned the hard way is that you can't outrun a sales problem with great marketing. I can generate all the leads in the world for you. If you're a terrible salesperson, like I can't help you. Like we have to figure out. So one of the things that we always check in on is like, okay, if we get you a lead, what happens to it? What does your process look like? And sometimes people will say, honestly, like we don't have one. And then we can have a conversation around, okay, how do we build up your sales process? And we used to have a sales pilot. Actually, I don't know when this is coming out, but next Wednesday, we're having a webinar on tying your marketing and your sales better together. And we just released a new ebook about aligning those and just getting more value out of your marketing and your sales by having a better sales process in place. So we look at things from that perspective. And now that we have this designer that we're working with very closely, we're able to look a little bit more at the personal branding. So our sales guidance often bleeds into networking and networking best practices. And we can also do some things from the design perspective, from like the LinkedIn perspective, on helping people nail their persona and putting together assets for them to use. And we do a lot of consulting in that way. We have one gentleman who's he's a kick butt speech coach, and he helps people manage others better and like give speeches a lot better and just like really focus on their communication. And we meet with him twice a month to kind of talk through his strategy and what he's doing and making the most out of LinkedIn and the other platforms he's using. So we definitely get into that for sure.
I feel like I need you to come and review me. Maybe I should. I did get called out last week. When you're working late, sometimes it hits you and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just going.
Mhm.
I unintentionally, because it went from the day it was to the next day without me realizing, put 4 LinkedIn posts scheduled for the same day when I thought I had split them between the 2.
Yeah.
So someone was like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, why? They're like, you posted 4 times on LinkedIn. I'm like, just so everyone's aware, it is very rare that is me actively, they're scheduled on Mondays.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was just a big mistake. But I think it's cool that you guys play into the human aspect of things. And I don't think every marketing firm that I've run into locally, not hating on all of you, does that.
Yeah. And honestly, that's one of the reasons we do that, is because there's a void there and it's a need. And it's just not something that I don't think it's an issue of not wanting to. It's just they don't have the resources or the flexibility to. And I've been in larger agencies where the service order is this, that's what you deliver. Those are the things you do. And as long as you hit your deadlines, nothing else matters. Right. And that larger agency structure is, it's paralyzing in some ways. And so being in a smaller agency just gives you more flexibility. And not necessarily more resources, but just more willingness to try things and adapt.
Do you guys have any big plans for Poetica in this year? I mean, I'm sure there are plans, but is there anything we should be on the lookout for in 2025 other than the webinar next week?
And the webinar next week, we'll probably keep doing webinars throughout the year. That's been really good for us.
Good.
Hopefully we'll have a designer on the team this time next month. And we're just trying to continue to do good work for businesses locally and around the country. And we're just going to keep on keeping on.
Good. Well, we're coming to the end of our time here, and I have one more question for you.
Yes.
The current stage of your life right now, where it is, if you ever went to school for English and wanted to be a writer, what 3 words would you use to describe it?
As my career
right now
to the English major I was.
Yep.
Maybe like hectic, but fulfilling. Hectic, but fulfilling. We'll go with that. It's off the cuff.
That's good though. See, those kind of questions, if I sent you that like a week ago, you would have had some incredible long-winded answer that wouldn't have been as impactful. I feel like that's what we needed.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts before we get out of this fabulous space that we're recording in?
Oh yeah, beautiful studio me.
Yeah.
No, I think that, obviously if people need marketing or event support, they can reach out to us.
We will link all the links.
Beautiful. But I think for people that aren't ready for agency support, just keep on keeping on. I mean, I think starting a business is the most badass thing, one of the most badass things that you can do, to put yourself out there and say, like, I am creating this, I am building this, I'm all in. That is a hugely risky, ballsy move. And if you have the guts to do that, like, more power to you, best of luck. get the resources that you need and go have some fun, go kick some butt, enjoy your rice and beans for a few months, and then, come up out on top. Yeah, go for it. Do it.
It sounds like you like your boss then.
He's all right. He's all right. And she's all right too.
It comes and it goes. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time today.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Do you think it's appropriate to look at the camera for the outro, or should I?
I don't know. Yeah. Wait, I don't know where it is. There it is.
Here we go. Wide angle. And that's a wrap on another episode of the Transform Tales. Thank you again, Pat. It was great talking to you. I hope this discussion has inspired you to consider transformation in your own life. I'm Brooke Addis of Transform Labs, reminding you that the next chapter might be your best one yet. Until next time, bye everyone.